Yeah. We're live.
Hi, hello, and welcome to another video. Today, I'm joined by Mario Cavolo and the team at iChongqing, Alex from Reporter Media, and James from iChongqing as well. We are going to be talking about the Olympics. So first of all, I would like to welcome all the viewers to this show from all the different channels and all the different sources that brought you to this video today. Welcome to this show. Allow me to first say welcome and good day to the people that are with me. So I would like to start with Mario. How are you today?
Fernando, it's been a long time. Great to be with you and to join Alex over at iChongqing. I can't wait to also get out there, Alex, to see you finally in Chongqing, one of my favorite cities in China. Fabulous to be here. And when I say the word here, I mean China. As you all know, I've been here 22 years. I'm an author of 3 books on China. I'm a senior fellow with the Center for China and Globalization. But no, I'm just a dumb woo-mow that gets paid by the government to say nice things. I mean, I'm so glad to be here to help everyone refute all of the anti-China garbage propaganda going on, whether it's the Olympics. It doesn't matter what it is. Everything for the West is an excuse to spew this crap, and we're here to debunk it all. Cheers, everybody, and good morning.
Well, and good morning to Alex and James in Chongqing. Nice studio, gentlemen. Looks beautiful.
Thank you very much. We're great, Fernando. And hey, I want to just say a big thanks and a big shout out to you guys here. We are in our new studio. Now, bear with us. We are going to have some, little technical minor things that we're going to have to perfect over the next few weeks, but we are going to get there. I'm with my good colleague, James here. And James, we're in the new studio. We got an Olympics behind us here in Beijing.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and this is the first time I've actually done a live stream out here in the studio.
Yeah.
I've done lots of live streams with iChongqing in the past, but they've always been out and about in the city. And of course, it's the first time we've done a live stream together, and of course, the first time I've met these 2 gentlemen live as well. Yeah, so it's a great pleasure to be here, and I'm really looking forward to us talking about the Beijing Winter Olympics in more detail.
Yeah, and let me tell you something about our guests here today, because we were invited by Fernando and, as you see in the corner there, Mario. Now, these 2 guys, they're dynamite when they're on screen. They're very knowledgeable about China, and that's why this panel is selected the way it is selected today, is because the Olympics got politics again. And here we are. Well, tell us about, Fernando, tell us about what the title of this live stream was today. We kind of went back and forth about what the title was. Maybe you can give us some insight on that.
We were thinking about calling it the gold medals, the media, and the truth. We were calling it different things. And we ended up with what Mario suggested, which is, well, China's finger to the West, because it is a very important event that the West didn't really want to happen. So before we go into we have basically 4 topics that we want to talk about. We are going to discuss the opening ceremony. We are going to discuss some of these athletes that are representing other countries, namely Eileen Gu. So just stay put, because we have so much to tell you about her. We're also going to talk about the COVID and the closed loop, and some of the reports that media have on the closed loop and the food and the COVID testing and all these things. So we're going to cover that from their perspective, and the truth, the matter, what you can actually see on the ground taking place. And the 4th topic that we are going to discuss at the end is the relevance, the importance of Beijing being the first city in history to host both the Summer and the Winter Olympic, and what it means for this new era of world order, so to speak. So if I may say from the get-go, this is an indication that the future is in Asia and China. So without further ado, why don't we start talking a little bit about the opening ceremony? Yes. So I would like to ask the panel, what was the most moving moment for you during the ceremony? And then we're going to talk about how the West saw it. So let's go with Mario first. What was your reaction to the opening ceremony?
As I've been waiting, I just looked it up. I wanted to look up her name. For me, the most important moment of the Olympics, and I say this tongue in cheek, of course, as you already referred to, is when China threw up its finger to the world of criticizers, and they did that in a beautiful, beautiful way. How can you be committing? Let's go back and ask a couple of questions. I'm referring, by the way, of course, to when it was a Uyghur who lit the torch for the Olympics. Keeping in mind, what does the torch of the Olympics symbolize? It symbolizes the entire world coming together under the banner of sports to compete against one another in the spirit of sportsmanship and support for one another and cheering for achievement. And China did all of those things for the Uyghurs over the last couple of decades. The Uyghur population of China in Xinjiang has grown by 20%. I don't know how you call that genocide. It's bizarre to me. I don't recall the population of the Jews under Hitler growing by 20% while they were being gassed in gas chambers. That I don't think that they grew by 20%. I think that their population shrunk in a horrible nightmare that the world still needs to remember, and reminds me of how they are actually bastardizing and demeaning the true meaning of the word genocide. They are insulting and disrespecting the real victims of real genocides committed by countries like Saudi Arabia, backed by United States weapons, in places like Yemen right now, or Christians who have been truly genocided in places like Somalia. These are real genocides, but when populations grow by 20%, when populations are minorities, preferential minorities in a country like China, whose government offers them preferential policies like free education, better health care, to help them improve their lives, raise them up out of poverty, make their lives better. I don't know, but in the real world that I live in, and that I think all of you live in, we don't call any of that genocide. It's nonsense. It's propaganda. It's pathetic. It's preposterous. Every time you ask China about it, this is their official reply. This is a completely and entirely made up story. And what did China do to go ahead and send its finger to the world? And again, it's what I immediately thought of when they did what they did, which was to have Dinajir Yilamujang, who is a Xinjiang minority and also an accomplished Olympic athlete. She is part of China and lit the torch. That was China's way of saying, we are achieving things. We are doing more. We are the normal, sane ones. You are the crazy ones. You are the liars. Screw you. And we're having a successful, spectacular Olympics. And that's what I immediately thought of. They chose the Uyghur to light the torch. What a great thing to do. What a great thing to do.
Let's go to James and Alex in studio to tell us their impressions of the opening ceremony. So who would like to go first? James, what was your impression of the opening ceremony?
Well, I think I'll take it from the top here. Mario, you suggested something about opening ceremonies here, about how they chose the torchbearer, and that was kind of, we felt it was a strategic point. Let me explain to you what happened in Canada this year. Canada, we had quite a disturbing, a real life issue go on there with our Native Indians in Canada. We had a lot of these. I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with what story I'm talking about, with a lot of these graves that were found. And it's funny how they mix politics and sports together. Well, in Canada, we have what is called the Canadian Football League. And this is quite a large sporting events throughout Canada, just as hockey is in the Olympics. But at the opening of the season, they brought Native Indians to the football stadiums to sing our national anthems and to show that we are in solidarity with our ethnic minorities in Canada. So Canada has done the exact same thing on what has happened here at the opening ceremonies. Now, where's the major outcry with that? Where is it? Why isn't that on Fox News with Insanity Sean Hannity? Where is it? Where's the outcry for that? Okay, maybe I'm going to pass it to you, James, because I'm seeing a pattern here, and I'm going to get into details about it in a little bit later, but fire away, James.
I understand what you're saying, and it's been that since forever. I mean, I've seen some of the things going on in the past. Even though we also have the story behind the Native Americans in the USA as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and people, I suppose, in political circles over there, and also in other countries, deny that on a regular basis. I mean, if you talk about the opening ceremony itself, I mean, when I watch these big sports events, personally, I mean, I try to not look at them so much through political eyes. You know, I'm just kind of like a normal, everyday guy, so I really just like to sit down and enjoy the show. And I still remember the Beijing 2008 Olympics as well. I watched the opening ceremony. I was actually in Seoul, Korea. At the time, yeah, and for me, it was just a a stunning show. Incredible, amount of choreography, preparation, or the lights, fireworks. I thought it was an absolutely spectacular show. So I would like to say that first. About some of the other issues we just mentioned, we had the Uyghur athletes light the torch at the beginning of the ceremony. I thought that was also an excellent idea. Because we do know there have been a lot of accusations going around, from which parties that is. I mean, if you want to make accusations, that's fine. But the one thing I've never seen so far to date is some evidence. So if they've been abused here in some way, how about give us an address? Give us an address. Where can we go and knock on the door,
James?
So
James,
it's kind of like the.
James,
Mario.
I have a question. James, I have a question. Okay, you ready? Here, James. Here's my question. Okay. It's great to have you on. You said this is your first time. This is your first time on a live stream. Good for you. Don't be shy. You're doing great. I have a question for James. So, James, in America, I can't believe it's outrageous. It's outrageous. The NFL Super Bowl had black minorities perform at the halftime show. I mean, I can't believe they did that. Does that make what I just said? Does that make sense to any? Does that make sense to anybody? Would anybody say, "Oh, I can't believe they chose black minorities to perform at the NFL Super Bowl halftime show"? Would anybody on planet Earth say such a stupid thing? Of course not, right? But they did. Blacks are minorities in America. They're poorly treated. They are. Okay. So we should make a big deal about this. It should be a headline. It should be a headline. But of course, what I just said is ridiculous. Okay. And I don't think it and I don't believe it. And yet that's exactly what the Western media does with China. Oh, they had a minority to light the torch in the Olympics. And they go on and on with all that. So no matter what China does, we know they're going to paint it black, right? That's what they do.
I have to jump in and show you a couple of things that media outside of China are saying. James, you just mentioned the idea of just accusations of genocide and proof of genocide. Well, let me show you a very, very short clip of how they handle evidence of genocide in the West. This is Mr. Glenn Beck, okay? This is him talking to hundreds of thousands of Americans. Listen to this, please.
No volume on Glenn Beck.
So the evidence is somewhere else. We'll bring it on Monday, James. So sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. So if I just finish that point about the evidence here. So we're not given specific names, areas where it's allegedly taking place. Then the only evidence I've only seen about it are exiles based in other countries, but obviously they're not here on the ground in China. So I think it's difficult to say they're speaking from direct personal experience, and of course if they're based out of the country, it could just well be they're just claiming whatever they're told to in return for some kind of benefits. So no, I don't want to suggest that they're not telling the truth, but I think from a legal point of view, then I wouldn't say you can really accept what they say at face value.
And let's add to this. While we're on this topic about media, here's a unique situation that is happening right now, right before our eyes in Canada. These are people that are out there trying to express their opinion, but walking around, and I spoke with a great Canadian friend of mine yesterday about this, and he made a video about this. And he says, you realize that the Canadians, they're having a very big protest throughout the country. And they're using truckers.
The convoy.
Now, this is countrywide. It's pretty much shut down, we'll say, the logistical routes of getting product to the market. All right. So these truckers, they have these banners on that this isn't China. This is not, this is not communist China. It's not China. All these signs. But what they don't understand is that the same stuff that has been fed to them for 20 to 30 years that would make them to put that sign up on a truck, the media is actually doing it to them now. And it's the first time that they're finally seeing, they're saying, wait a minute, we're truckers. We're trying to get out here. We're standing up for our right. We're in peaceful protest. We're doing everything, law abidings, whatever. Ho, ho, ho. The government's now passed an emergency. It's kind of like a state of emergency, which says the following. If you donate to the truckers, you could be criminally charged. If you're receiving funds as a trucker, you could be criminally charged. You will have your license taken away as a trucker if you take in this freedom of protest. You will have your kids possibly taken away from you if they are there on location. So what's happening, finally, the North American people are finally seeing an example of when the media has now turned around on them in their own country by their own media, and they're not being, into the international audience, they're not being shown as protesters. Oh, no, James. They're being shown as occupiers. In the House of Commons in Canada today, they called people that are peacefully protesting occupiers. It's the only time in Canadian history have they ever passed this law to bring in this emergency, the Emergency Act. I don't have the technical name, but it's in. It went through. It passed through Parliament. It's now giving the police all the powers. Should we be surprised that the head of police all of a sudden retired from his position yesterday? That will tell you something. That the Ottawa chief of police that 1 week ago said, you can't do this, move your trucks, we're going to put you in jail, do this, do that. Oh, no. He's out now. Because they know that now the public, and I hope, guys, and I'll come back to you in a second, Mario, I hope that the public is finally seeing all the lies that the media have said about China over these last decades. That own media that they trusted for their advice has now turned on them.
Yeah, exactly. I would bring up 2 points now based on that. If I talk about the convoy first. So I've also heard that story. I can't remember the exact name myself either, kind of the Emergency Powers Act or something like that. So
it's incredible.
It could also...
they didn't even use it in 9/11. So that'll tell you.
Yeah, and
wow.
it kind of allows them to use the military as well, something like that, to try and to move them on. But I suppose it goes back to the original problem. The original issue is about the mandates for what, isn't it? So a lot of these truckers were at risk of losing their jobs if they did not take the. I don't know if I should say the word on the live stream.
Yeah. We all know what you're talking about.
So during the all of these parliamentary discussions, they talk about and it just strikes me as so militaristic as well. The attitude of the politicians as well. So, and even if I talk back with some friends or even some family members back in the UK, I think they watch maybe the mainstream media too much because they always have such a vindictive attitude. No, they should be fined, they should be imprisoned or something like that. But how about you just deal with the issues. It's actually a very simple issue when you come down to it. They're just at risk for losing a job because they don't want to be subjected to something they're unwilling to be subjected to.
Gentlemen, I would like to get back to the topic of China and the Olympics. I want to show you a photo, and I want you to tell me what this tells you. This is a photo from the opening that was pretty touching in some sense.
Right.
I would like to ask Mario, what is your interpretation of this little dove that kind of like flew away and was brought back into the flock? Mario, what's your take?
Little lovely doves who flew away and were brought back into the flock remind me of Abraham Lincoln. Right? And I hope you understand why that would remind me of Abraham Lincoln, right? Because the country of China is run for all the people, all the little doves. Okay. And the country of America is an oligarchy and plutocracy that is literally run and governed for the benefit of the wealthy and corporate class, not for everyone. Okay. And that's the difference. And when China comes up, for example, and cracks down on Jack Ma, and they said, look, your capitalism is a good thing. Hey, guess what? We've even adopted lots of that capitalism within our own country. But your capitalism is not going to so extremely supersede the social needs of the society, which would be more of a socialist focus. We're a blended government. We're a blended culture and society. We need to make sure that everyone is better taken care of. And China has a long way to go in that regard, like any country does. I mean, you got lots of people who are struggling and still need to raise up their lives. But China's done more in that regard than any other major country on planet Earth. In fact, to an unprecedented degree. The raising up of America's middle class post-World War II was 100, 200 million people. I mean, okay, good for you. Thank God. Wonderful. And that was an amazing thing. That was America. In fact, that was the America that my grandparents immigrated to from Italy. America. It was wonderful, right? But now China has brought up middle class 5 times that size. Okay. You got 800, 900 million urbanized Chinese now who are no longer living in the hell of poverty. And so this is what China's government does. And that's why you want to say, they want to say to you it's authoritarian, but in fact it's socialist. It's very much it's very much socialism. Okay, whereas the U.S. government, and now we're even seeing the Canadian government is even far more authoritarian and militaristic to its citizens than China is. But no. China is the evil bad regime, not us.
Alex, I want to get back to how the Olympics were presented in the West by very large media people. So I'm going to show you, Alex and James, the clip by Sean Hannity. And I want to hear, what do you feel? What was your reaction to how he was presenting the Olympics in China?
And Mario, before you, or Fernando, before you play it, let's see if the last clip we didn't have volume, so let's see if we can get volume on this clip.
Sure. Let me know. So I'm gonna play it and let me know.
Sure. No volume on our end.
No volume.
No volume.
No volume.
All right. Okay, so let's drop the video, but you all heard this video. You probably have seen it when he calls China a vile place, a vile, where people live in poverty and where the Uyghurs are being genocided. And I think that, in my opinion, that's where we're really starting to see a change. The public is becoming more and more comfortable.
Fernando!
Yes.
I got this transcript. I got the transcript right in front of me.
Let me finish this thought.
I got the Hannity transcript. Let me take 30 seconds and be Hannity and let me read it. Okay, ready? Good.
Here, no.
Dear friends. No, okay, ready. Here we go. Good evening, friends. Welcome to Hannity. The vast majority of sorry, wait. Good evening, friends. Welcome to Hannity. The Winter Olympics are now underway. Yep, that's right. The hostile regime of communist China in Beijing. Make no mistake, this is an international disgrace because of its vile communist dictatorship. China is a uniquely awful, terrible place on earth. I'll continue.
Just stop there.
Okay?
Stop there.
Can you
How
imagine
do
this
you?
is mainstream media? Can you imagine this is mainstream media? Go ahead. What, Fernando?
Where are we that even today the enemy is communism? I mean, what is Cold War #2? I mean, really? That's what they're pushing? But let's go to Chongqing. What is your reaction?
Well, guys, I've got the actual clip here. Can I actually play the voice clip? You guys
try.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
Now, tonight, as you may or may not have noticed, the Winter Olympics are now underway. Yep, that's right. The hostile regime of the communist Chinese in Beijing. Make no mistake, this is an international disgrace because of its vile communist dictatorship. China is a uniquely, awful, terrible place on earth. The vast majority of their 1.4 billion people, they live in abject poverty and squalor. And by the way, they're the lucky ones. China's ethnic minority Muslims, the Uyghurs, they're forced to live in camps where they're used to slave labor, torture, murder happens. And one of China's star tennis players just disappeared after accusing a communist official of rape. Her claims were wiped right off of China's internet. There is no freedom in China. There's no freedom of religion, no freedom of speech, no freedom of thought, no freedom at all. You can be thrown in jail for using the wrong words, believing the wrong things, or sharing the wrong links online. Censorship, that rules the day. And if I were in China, I'd be locked up probably right about now for this monologue. Now, let's not forget.
You should be.
Yeah. Now, Hannity did say one thing in his last quote. He would be probably locked up for what he says. Now, my brother-in-law always said, there's freedoms, but some of these freedoms use it to be freedom to be a blank. and that's what I think of Mr. Hannity. But here's the scary thing. You're talking about the openings here, Fernando. This started back in Beijing when they hosted the Olympics back was 2008, right?
Sure. I mean, I remember the first discussions on taking this kind of approach, this kind of attitude was kind of going back to when it was first awarded in the year 2000, I think.
Well, I remember there was a big uproar about, did Beijing fake the fireworks? Or how dare they put so much, fireworks into the production in an, with a global warming thing. They're going to spin every angle. I mean, should we be surprised that they are coming down and even before the microphone opened up, they even were analyzing, oh, look at Vladimir Putin. Look at how he is. And the cameras were focused on it. And, they bring in that filter from BBC. I mean, if you watch both TV channels, you got a beautiful color. We're here in China. We see it on, CCTV and stuff like that. Beautifully looking games. But then the weather outside on some of these events doesn't look as good as it should. It's crazy. But that's what's going on. It's right down to the camera, the filter, it's Fernando, you've got it totally right from the start here. It's been the way they've criticized this even before it happened.
What I think is really concerning to me is how language is slowly permeating into mainstream media.
Yeah.
Now they're talking openly about genocide. They're talking openly about comparing China to German Nazism. They're talking about the Uyghurs and the genocide as if it were the Jews. And here's the thing: media knows how far they can push the language. So we are there. We're at that level. We're at the point where they can actually say it to millions of people on mainstream media. China is a Nazi state. China, there's genocide. We're there. They have escalated the language to the point where now they're saying it openly. What's next? And if people are not open-minded enough to watch what we people on the ground have to say about those things, and how to correct what they're being told. Because you just heard Glenn Beck saying, oh, we have the evidence, but we're going to bring it on Monday. Really? You do? Pompeo said they have tons of evidence just 3 days before he left office, and he never presented it. Where is the evidence? There has never been evidence, but they have managed to get everybody comfortable with this kind of language, comfortable enough that they will believe it and support actions against China that there really is just WMD's 2.0. That's my biggest fear. Now, we've talked about the opening ceremony for half an hour. Let us go on to talk about the athletes for a minute, okay? And I think that when we talk about the athletes, perhaps the most important lie and media attention has been given to Eileen Gu. So let's talk about her, and let's play a clip of what Eileen Gu did when she chose to represent China. Eileen Gu, for those of you who don't know, for those of you who have been living under a rock, it's an American skier and jumper and snowboarder, if I'm not mistaken. Her mother is Chinese, her father is American. So she grew up in America, and she decided 2 years ago to announce on Instagram that she was going to participate in the Olympics representing China. This is an 18-year-old girl that has been called by Hannity, by Jake Tapper, by all kinds of media pundits as a traitor, because she chose to represent China. Now, she just went on to win gold in her first competition. And just yesterday, she won silver in her second competition. She is expected to do very well in her third competition, which is coming on real soon. So let's talk a little bit about Eileen Gu. So I would like to hear, Alex, what's your take on the coverage that she's been given, and if there is any truth or is there any foundation to this kind of attack? So Alex, here's to you.
Well, here's where it gets interesting, because there is an elephant in the room here. And I, as a Canadian, I know what the elephant in the room is, and I bet you this panel doesn't. What happens when it may happen, not this Olympics, but in the future, that the Chinese hockey team wins a gold medal? And why do I bring that up? Because there are 11 Canadians playing for the Chinese hockey team at this Olympics. So what if China won the gold medal in hockey? Should China be outraged? Should they be upset that 11 Canadians came over here?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, I could give my own personal angle on Eileen Gu as well, because maybe I do have some family situations that are similar. So I don't know if the audience knows. No, my wife is from Chongqing, and we have 2 daughters. One has a UK passport, like myself, and the other one, for practical considerations, she was born here and has grown up here, has the like the Chinese hukou, the ID number. So in the case of my elder daughter who has the British passport, I don't know if the audience knows that in China they don't recognize dual nationality, but they have a special rule for minors, as in under 18s, and that if they have a foreign passport but a Chinese parent and they're living in China, they are kind of recognized as being Chinese from the point of view of immigration. And they have a term for it, actually. They call it like citizenship conflict, something like that. And basically what it means is they can live here as long as they want, without any restrictions. They can go to the schools here, anything like that.
Wow.
But because they have the foreign passport, so they don't reach the requirements that they can actually get a Chinese passport or an ID card or an ID number. And this and also another practical consideration is that when we leave the country, she doesn't use her UK passport, but we go to immigration. and we get an entry-exit permit.
Mhm.
And then once you leave the country, then you just use your UK passport normally. But when you reach the age of 18, then people in their situation have to make a decision. So either they can continue using their foreign passport, and they kind of lose their conflict of citizenship status. So was they 18, if they wanted to stay in China, they would have to maybe get a residency visa, something like that, to continue staying here. But of course, from my point of view, for somebody who spends a lot of time, if not their whole, years growing up in China, they have, a lot of, affection, affinity with life here. I mean, for me personally, it doesn't seem like a really, it seems like very unfair to say, somebody's a traitor for making a decision. She said, for me, if that's what she, if that's what she wants, if she feels she has more personal affinity to life in China, then that's her personal decision. So I think it's unwarranted for the powers of the forces, if you like, to kind of politicize that decision for their own motivations.
James, James does bring up an interesting point. I mean, all of the people on the panel here have an interesting situation. I'm married to a Lithuanian who is, Lithuania is part of the European Union, but still does not allow dual nationality. So I'm Canadian, wife's Lithuanian. I want to move to Lithuania. All these people say, oh, but you'll never be able to become a national of that country if you're living in China. Same can be said with the country I used to live in Thailand. Almost virtually impossible as a foreigner to get a Thai passport, even through marriage. Okay. Same with European countries. So why is there this major focus on this? This is a worldwide issue. And hey, they try to find a reason to bring it up. And this athlete, her parents, her culture that she has grown up in, I think it's a beautiful thing that she's had the opportunity to experience both of them. If anything, she's an ambassador to relations on how two countries should be getting along. They should be looking up to her and say, wow, here's a girl that's can go to Asia and back to America and develop cultural things, and as well as learn about ancestry, and as well as learn about different things that she can take back and share with her American friends and relatives. But
and she said that.
Sorry.
I would like to go to Mario, but before I ask Mario your position on this, I would like to remind the panel and the viewers and everybody who's out there watching this, how many people choose to represent other countries. You just mentioned Chelios. Right. He's been representing the Chinese hockey team for the last 3 years, but there's so many others. There's this skier. She represents Mexico. She's an American who decided to represent Mexico for the last 2 Olympics. Here's this Vic Wild. He's also a snowboarder, if I'm not mistaken. Now he's representing Russia. Now, so if we are going to criticize this young girl for choosing to represent China, do me a favor and criticize everybody else. But the worst thing that they're doing is they're asking this young girl, what does she feel about the Uyghurs? What does she feel about Taiwan? What does she think about Tibet? What does she think? Let her compete, let her be. But if you're going to do that, if you're going to be that mean to these athletes, why don't we suggest that all media start asking the American athletes, hey, what do you think about Yemen? What do you think about Libya? What do you think about Afghanistan? What do you think about debt loans, student loans in America? What do you think about the homeless in the streets of California? I mean, if we're going to be asking political questions to athletes, let's ask CGTN and CRI and CCTV to ask these questions to the American athletes. Do you think that's fair? So why on earth are you doing this to this young girl? Why are you attacking one of your own? And I have to say, all these reports, all this negativity, I know that I'm a bit passionate. I'm a little bit, I'm like beer. My foam goes up very quickly. But hear me out. I fear for her when she goes back to America.
Sure.
with
Sure.
the amount of Asian hate and the
Absolutely.
spotlight that has been shown on her. That is my fear. But let me get to Mario and hear your take, Mario.
Sure, Fernando. Thanks kindly for just now stealing every one of my thoughts, and I have nothing to say. Tongue in cheek. Of course, I'm kidding. This is all I can do is follow up on those exact 2 points. I popped them in my notes, which is to say, we don't criticize other people who move to other countries, do we? In my case, Alex, it's amazing, isn't it? Right? In your case, Lithuania, Canada, European Union. In my case, it's 3 countries and soon to be 4. Okay, my family immigrated from Italy to America back when doing that was a really amazing idea. And then I mean, honestly, they left Italy and went to America and never went back. And 22 years ago, by happenstance only, not by any premeditated plan, I left America, went to China, happened to be China, and never went back. All right. So they left Italy, their home country. America became their home. America was my home country, though not my ancestry. Right? I'm Italian, born in America, not American. And then I left America and came to China, and now China's my home. What judgments are there on that story?
Exactly.
0. None. What judgments are there on the thing that I just described? None. There's Italians who I learned only a few years ago that there's a lot of Italians did not go to America. They went to Australia, and there's an enormous Italian community in Melbourne. I never knew that till a few years ago, till a few Aussie friends of mine informed me. Do we have anything to say about the Italians who went to Australia and got Australian passports? No. Now, I can go, and I want to. I am now going to add a 4th country to this mix. I intend on going back and claiming my original Italian ancestry passport in the name underneath my grandparents, which I'm legally allowed and entitled to do. And I intend on doing that because I want to. Do you know why I want to? None of your business. It makes no difference. I just want to. Do you see what I mean? I just want to do that. If I get my I apply for the Italian passport, then I'm now back to my ancestral home country. My wife and son then qualify for those passports as well. I want in 10 years to move to Italy for 3 years. I want my son to be an exchange student and go. Many Chinese students go to. My son is half me, half Chinese, right? I want my son, like many Chinese, to go be an exchange student in Italy for a couple of years. And during that time, I want my wife and I will go there and live with him. That's our plan.
I think the topic of Eileen.
What does this have to do? What does this have to do with politics? What does any of this have to do with politics? Nothing. What does Eileen Gu have to do with politics and her decision Eileen Gu's decision to compete for China has nothing to do with anything to do with politics. As Fernando pointed out, other athletes, it's nothing to do with politics. And when you make it political and call them traitors, you are just being scumbag media flouting and spewing your anti-China propaganda story. This is your excuse to do so, and you're using them to do it. Shame. Now I'm done.
Fernando.
Sorry.
Yep.
A viewer asked a question, or they actually said that they were afraid for her safety. Can I play you something, which we tried to play before?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to play you this sound clip because this sound clip went out to 1.7 million subscribers of Glenn Beck's audience.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to hear what Americans are being fed. Okay, here we go.
The Olympics have already started in China. We'll see, obviously, the broadcast if you care to watch it. I hope that NBC loses every view they could possibly get on this propaganda show, because that's exactly what it is. It started with propaganda today.
Yes, it certainly did. And in fact, instead of me telling you the story, let me just give you a clip of the
Alex, we lost the audio. Hi, guys.
Oh, they seem to have frozen up, Fernando.
Yeah, I think that they
Okay, good.
froze
So
up.
let me they froze
Yeah,
up.
no.
Fernando, let me go ahead and finish what I'm writing as Alex was doing that. So we'll give them a minute to get it. Maybe they have to relog in or something like that. So what was Alex trying to say or demonstrate to all of us just now? That they're over there in America, people like Glenn Beck, people like Hannity, Tucker Carlson. Actually, the list is so endless, right? Of this spewing of this anti-China campaign. And what are they doing? Okay, here's the problem with America. That's a neoliberal democracy. It's not a democracy, but for the sake of the conversation, it's a neoliberal democracy. And in a neoliberal democracy, everyone is encouraged to express themselves, including being a bit nuts. Okay, if you want to get spikes in your face and tattoos all over your body, go for it. Okay, nobody cares whether you're emotionally unstable or not. You want to get a gun? Get a gun. You want to try drugs? Try drugs. It's a neoliberal democracy. And you've got a lot of, and when I say a lot of, you got one mass shooting and school shooting every week now in that country. It used to be never. Then it used to be once a year. Now it's every week. Okay, you got a lot of emotionally unstable people. They're encouraged to be liberal. They have guns. And now you have a media fomenting hate. So this is increasing. So then these people who are already unstable, when you're unstable, you want a target. If I'm pissed off, I want to bitch about my ex-wife and blame her for everything. I'm saying I don't do that, but that's what you naturally want to do, right? And that's the problem, okay? So you got rising crime, rising murder rates. You've got people who are dangerous and who are being given a target with people with a target on their back to go after those people. This is what's going on. This is a horrifying and scary situation, and it's happening in America. Now, if there's any technical difficulties, I don't know what
Yeah,
to tell you.
I think that is important for people to remember that a lot of the things that you're hearing from Sean Hannity, from Jake Tapper, from all this Glenn Beck, all these media people, I'm going to show you other clips and let you listen to other clips. Okay, they're back. They're probably all part of this 500 million a year to cover negatively the topic of China. Everybody's jumping on this bandwagon. Everybody's jumping at the opportunity to attack China because there's money to be made. So whenever you hear somebody telling you negative things about China, you've got to question it. You got to think for yourself and think, hey, are they telling me this because it is so? Or are they telling me this because they're getting paid to say so? We're here telling you that things are not like that. And we're not getting paid by state government to say that. We're not getting paid by anybody except for AdSense to make this video, to make this content. So you really have to ponder, who are you going to believe? And this is going to take us to the closed COVID loop that I want to cover, which is the next topic. A lot of people have been complaining about the closed COVID loop, the COVID closed loop in Beijing. What is that exactly? It is basically, let me go like this. It is basically an area where if you go into this area, be it an athlete, an official, a coach, media, a spectator, you need to abide by all the rules and regulations of China's COVID. Basically, the zero COVID policy, in which you're going to be tested, in which you're going to be required to wear a mask. So there's China telling the world, look, we're going to hold this event, and these are the parameters. We're going to hold the event, and this is what we expect you to do. We're going to hold the event, and you're invited to come, but this is what you need to do if you want to participate, if you want to come to Beijing. What are the chances that each and every person who got this information from their Olympic committee didn't understand that information? Every single person who came to Beijing, who is in Beijing right now, has received that information. Every single person knows what the protocols are and what the situation is. So many of them are acting surprised, shocked, negatively surprised at, wow, tests every day? There are people serving me wine and champagne wearing a hazmat suit. There are people wearing hazmat suits at the airport. Wow. Well, that's what it takes. And all this was presented to each and every person who is in Beijing right now participating in the Olympics. If you came, it's because you agreed to it. You were not forced to come here. You were not forced to abide by those regulations and those protocols. You chose to come. So shut up. Abide by the protocols and appreciate how much effort goes into keeping you and us outside of the loop safe. Let's go with Alex and James. Guys, how are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good here, and yeah, so to cut out for a couple of minutes there. Yeah, I suppose I'll give my point on the closed loop management, and also some of the things we've just touched on before we had some issues with the internet connection. So I mean, just going back to Hannity and Glenn Beck and the fear, there might be stoking up for Eileen Gu, if she goes back to the USA. I mean, I would, from my point of view, I know people like Hannity, they don't necessarily, when they go on Fox News and they say what they say, they're not necessarily like giving their own personal opinion. They're basically reading a script.
Sure.
Yeah, a teleprompter. And for me, like the aim of Fox News is, or other media organizations as well, I won't mention too many names, but it's not necessarily about representing the truth. It's about programming the masses, if you like, to regard certain countries, certain peoples in a certain way. And I've been in China for 18 years. I've got a lot of personal experience here. So when I listened to that clip of Hannity, I mean, it was just so far removed from reality. I mean, it was I wasn't angry, upset about it. I mean, it just had me laughing, basically. I mean, I have to say that the best I've had the best years of my life here in China. I mean, I've had as much freedom as I like. And I could tell you that in 18 years, I've never been asked once to show anybody like an ID card, prove who I am or anything like that. No, I'm a big fan of road trips. I've driven all around the country, all the way down to Hainan Island, other parts as well, which I love as well. No problem with the people here as well. And you mentioned like people living in abject poverty as well. I mean, I suppose when I first came in 2003, there were some issues. Lots of parts of the countryside were not so developed at that time. But I could tell in 2020, I went to a lot of the the formerly poorer parts of Chongqing municipality, and I was really amazed with what I saw there. I mean, I've been into multiple parts of Chongqing, and now they've got great infrastructure. A lot of the people there, they're not just kind of living, just getting by on maybe, let's say, like the crops they grow on their fields or something like that. Lots of big cooperatives they got going, and lots of community work going. Big orchards, rural tourism. A lot of them big in e-commerce as well, which I was really impressed with. Yeah, now the countryside, whenever I go there now, I never look at it as if it's like a place of poverty or anything like that. And now, actually, the people who live in the big urban areas, like in Chongqing, they love to travel to these formerly impoverished areas, if you like. They're really idyllic, beautiful places nowadays. Yeah, I suppose again, if we go back to Eileen Gu as well, was saying, I do think it's very unfair that she's being given these questions, what do you think about the alleged treatment of Uyghurs or something like that. But again, it kind of stems to the same question. It goes back to the same original question: where's the evidence that they've been abused in any way? I mean, I'm still yet to see that. But if you look at the big mainstream outlets, again, I won't go into names, But for me, it's kind of like a bleach test. So if like a what's the word, like a bleach test, if you like, like a bar test. So if they don't have enough evidence, then what they do instead is, every major network, they'll make the same claim, make a lot of noise about it. And then hopefully, if you've raised like a big, uproar or reaction, then people will just kind of, forget the fact that there's actually no evidence substantiating the claims in the first place. Yeah. So,
Mario.
for me, it's totally, unacceptable that, she would be given questions, such as that.
Mm.
Yeah. And then with the closed management as well. I mean, I'm aware of, some criticisms, that have been spread around media organizations abroad. But my preference is just to hear from the horse's mouth, if you like. I don't know if you've played any clips yet of some of the athletes who have taken part in the games. I mean, my impression from them is, again, which is my experience living in China as well. I mean, they've been given they've enjoyed great hospitality here, which has been my experience since the very first moment I set foot in the country in 2003. Yeah, I mean, the game, they've given a lot of praise for the organization behind the Olympics. I saw another clip as well, one of the athletes had a birthday and, she didn't tell them, but they organized her, flowers and things like that. Which is a really, really nice touch. So, no, of course, with the closed loop management, I mean, there was some parts which I suppose you could say are a little bit inconvenient. Of course, it's not fun, to have a COVID-19 test, like taken every day. But if you put that aside, though, I mean, for my impression from the athletes is that they've had a wonderful time, and they're very grateful for the organization and the hospitality they've received.
What I want to do with this video is to present a contrast between the way Western media is covering and the way millions of people are watching this Olympics and the way they actually take place. So let me share with you a very short clip. I'm going to use the audio here. I'm going to show you the video and the audio from here. So you understand what some people out there are actually sensing, getting from media. So let me show this right here, and I'm going to play it here.
This clip, oh God.
Norway or Sweden, right? Where the COVID restrictions have been lifted. Instead of picking communist China, no. Communist China does not deserve to host the Winter Olympics at all. Major mistake, especially with the virus in play there. And the draconian, authoritarian measures that they're using and implementing on the athletes. Okay, these athletes are losing hope. Some don't even want to be there anymore. I mean, who can blame them either? Terrible conditions, terrible food, questionable testing, and no loved ones allowed there to even support them. And I trained my whole life to be there. I'd be very angry and very sad.
And a lot fitter, I guess.
His name is
and
Gary.
I love fitter.
His name is Gary Franchi. His name is Gary Franchi. And again, he's like Trump, a lot of the right wing, right side policies that I'm a conservative guy and I agree with, right until these people all went off the cliff together into radical crazy land like this guy Franchi now. They're all lunatics saying this stuff. And they don't even know. And they're not listening.
So my thing is this. You hear this Franchi guy telling you this is a horrible place, they're being mistreated, this is draconian, this is right. And then
he's got a million subscribers.
And then you hear from the athletes themselves. I'm going to play that video for you. So you as a viewer, you as a person with an open mind to come to these channels to listen to what we have to say, you have a decision to make. Who are you going to believe? That guy in a studio who's never been to China, who's telling you horrible things, or these athletes that I would like to show you right now that are having the best times of their lives? So please listen to this report.
It landed, I realized how China really had the priority of the athletes and coaches at their most top priority. And when we arrived, the airport was empty. It was only for the athletes.
They have honestly done a stellar job with the whole COVID protocol. I didn't really know what to expect. Being stateside, you kind of heard some pretty bad media, and that is completely false. It's actually been phenomenal.
Everyone was super kind and really willing to help the whole time, so it was really great. They really cared for our safety and made sure it was their top priority.
I just think all the people and the staff within the Olympic Village are so genuine and kind, and they're such a happy, they're always waving their hands, so excited. It's just refreshing, and it's nice to see.
A big thank you to them, and we felt very welcome under pretty trying circumstances.
Some of the volunteers found out it was my birthday, actually. The volunteers who helped us, Vera and Luis, they made me a special birthday cake with a happy birthday sign on it, and they even gave me a bouquet of flowers, and I thought that was so sweet.
The best experience about Beijing, the people there. I reckon the people there were absolutely lovely. They were accommodating. They were really funny, and they really enjoyed us having there.
Everybody from staff to COVID testers to accommodation, it's probably honestly one of the better Olympics that we've been to.
So
No surprise.
there you go, guys. There you go, guys. This is the athletes telling you one thing, and these pundits, who we already established are probably getting paid to say negative things about China, telling you the opposite. So are you going to say that these athletes are getting paid by China?
Yeah,
Are you going to say that these athletes are looking at getting sponsorships from Chinese companies? How are you going to denigrate the authenticity, the honesty, the experience of these athletes now? I mean, you got Hannity, Tapper, all these people telling you something, and the athletes telling you something completely different. So what's the argument? How are you going to erase what we just showed you? You have a decision to make. And hopefully, once you make that decision, it's going to carry forward for the rest of your life, and understand that mainstream media has a hole to sell you. Alex, what's your take on the closed loop?
Well, okay, I've got an opinion on this, and it goes like this. Why are we hearing this rhetoric come out of what used to be at least an industry that had some integrity? Integrity left the building a long, long time ago. So why is everyone so angry? Why are they angry at a nice girl that's come halfway across the world, pulled off a gold medal? Angry. China bad. Why are they angry about a beautiful opening ceremonies? China bad. China bad again. It's terrible. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. This is a deeper issue. And this issue is that the Western societies have to start to accept a lower standard of living. That is coming to these countries, and they have to understand that when you go to work in the morning, you're going to work in Western countries right now for 33%. For someone, it's not you that goes to work and gets that whole 100% of your salaries. When I hear my sisters and my brother-in-laws tell me that they make this certain salary, I said, they always say, well, that's before tax. Mm-hmm. So you're reminded very quickly of why this anger and animosity gets spilled into sports. Well, Chinese athletes having a great time in beautiful Chinese infrastructure and seeing all these Western athletes from all around the world coming saying, wow, I've been on the bullet train for the first time. Never seen such a wonderful airport. Why don't I have that in my country? Because you're working for the man. And you have to accept right now that your countries are earning. You will be earning a lower standard of living. Now, what examples can I give with that from my country? Fly into Toronto Pearson Airport. When was the last time it was renovated? Maybe before I was born. Maybe. Okay. Try take a train across Canada, a passenger train. Doesn't happen. Not possible. Okay. So what does this all mean? When people get upset and they throw the toys out of the pram, they call it. My father always said, the guilty always scream the loudest. And this is why we're seeing such animosity towards China. Wouldn't you be a little bit moved by arriving here? Guys, we've all been here. We're in China. There's China right outside that door, okay? Just like, you know, I saw with one of Mario's videos. He's describing his neighborhood. If you're a Westerner and you come to this country and you see what it is, you turn around and say, wait a minute, why was I lied? Why was I lied to? What happened here? The media
What was the
said
reason?
this. Glenn Beck said that. Hannity said that. What's going on? Why am I being lied to? What else am I being lied to? So no wonder these people are angry, because now the media's turned on them too.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is what they're doing. Sorry, this is what they're doing, Alex. This is what they're doing. That gentleman that we saw talking positively about China, an American, his Twitter account has been suspended because he spoke positively of China. Now, we got to remember one thing. Twitter has partnered with ASPI for their security and their networks. Who's ASPI? Jesus. The Australian Strategic. Exactly. It's basically Twitter censoring somebody who's telling you good things about China. Remember the whole burner phones? Don't bring your phone. Nancy Pelosi told the athletes, please don't say bad things about China. I fear for your life. Really? Really? This is what you're seeing. You're seeing this American athlete Twitter account suspended because he spoke positively about China. I rest my case. You have got to be able to see that you're being manipulated. Sorry, guys, I interrupted, but you were going to say?
Okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I was just going to say it's a similar experience for me in the UK. So I'm from a small city called Leicester, and Leicestershire is lovely. It's a beautiful county. But I can say, you know, when I go back now, I mean, I'm 41 years old now. And I could tell you when I go back 2 miles, exactly the same as it was when I was a kid growing up there. There's like no change at all. And I do think one aspect of the hostility as well is to kind of deflect away from the amazing advancements that have been made here in China as well. So we've been talking about the amazing infrastructure, the bullet trains that can get you all over the country in hours, even to places thousands of kilometers away. The economic prosperity you see here as well. I mean, like, a city like Chongqing or the other like major urban centers, Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, many, many more. They're like cities that never sleep. You can get anything, you can get what you want, do anything you want, basically 24 hours a day. And whatever you like, you can get it here. But like I said, back in my hometown in England, nothing has changed there. So you mentioned the example of railways. I mean, railways have barely been renovated in decades in England, and
they're private. A lot of them are privately owned.
Yeah, so I mean, they went in the past. I mean, they used to be a national company when I was a kid back in the 80s and the 90s, but it was all privatized. Yeah, so now I mean, it's kind of functional if you like, but it's very expensive and also quite unreliable as well. At least in my experience going back there. And also when I go back as well, having lived here so many years, when it comes to 4 or 5 p.m. in the evening, everyone kind of closes down. And now I go back with my wife and it's kind of like, what do we do now?
It's an interesting point that James is making there. Like a lot of people will say, to us, hey, China does some things wrong. China does some things bad and stuff like that. Okay, every country does that. We understand that. But I just want to give you an example one more time. If you're a foreigner and you move over here, okay, so is your rent close to what it would be in a mega city like this, in a normal mega city in the United States? Not a chance, okay? Not a chance. I got my electricity bill yesterday. Well, my mother got hers yesterday. It was $450. Mine was $25. Okay. My mother got her internet bill 2 weeks ago. Her bill, $146. Mine, $12. Now you might say, oh, but Alex, that's only rent. That's only internet. Okay, I can go on mobile. I can go on flying around the country internally. I can go on safety and security. Do I need to ramp up major insurance policies on my car because it's going to get broken into every week here? No. So I've saved money in insurance. My rent has gone down. My internet, thank you for the 5G. And all these things are part of everybody's life in North America and other countries. So to say that we are only here trying to say good things about it, I'm sorry, the proof is in the pudding there. The standard of living here with what people earn here, yes, there's certain areas that people earn a lot less, but they're not walking out of the front door knowing that they've left 35% for somebody to decide what to do with the money. And then even when you get out of work, in Canada, for example, another 1/7 is taken if you want to go buy groceries. And if you want to go out to a restaurant, another 1/7 of that 1/7 of that 35% goes out the door. So is it really the freedom that we were told? Why do you think there's so much animosity in the streets right now? And of course, where do people spew the hate? And where can they spew their disdain for their countries? The Olympics. Let's blame somebody. Let's blame China. This is all China's fault. Everything's China's fault. My taxes in Canada at 35 to 40% is China's fault. It's all China's
I think
fault.
Mario could bring us back to the idea of COVID being managed properly here in China. So Mario, what do you take us to the hypocrisy, the ungratefulness of media covering the Beijing Olympics in the safest country in the world? All the complaining about COVID, about the hazmat suits, about let it rip. Go.
Let it rip.
Yeah, sure, Fernando. China is the largest, safe, stable, successful, capable, and civil country on planet Earth. Now that I said that, what's amazing about that statement is how easy it is to confirm that everything I just said in that statement is accurate and true. And nothing demonstrates that better than the country's ability to identify, manage, and then working together, the government with the people, control and manage the pandemic. We are in the middle of a pandemic. And because China was capable of doing that, okay, 1 million people in China didn't die, who did die in the United States. They're fast approaching 1 million deaths. Now that's 1 million people who didn't die, for those of you out there who might want to regard living in and of itself as a human right that the government should help you have, just in case. So this is point number one. Point number two, I thought about how journalists should interview athletes. And I, as a journalist, would immediately want to ask Aaron Blunk and Eileen Gu and all the other athletes who arrived in Beijing. And after about 2 weeks or so, I would like to interview them. And one of the questions that I would ask every athlete is, how does it feel to be in a safe environment with COVID nowhere to be found for the first time in over 2 years? How does it feel to feel that safe and know that you're safe and aren't going to get COVID? Is that an amazing feeling for you? Do you want to go home actually, or do you want to stay here? I wonder how many Olympic athletes actually would rather not go back to their home country where COVID is 50,000, 100,000 cases a day, because they're here and they go, whoa. I mean, see, they're getting the reality check that I got 22 years ago when I arrived in China. I was like, whoa, this is not what people say it is. And of course it's not. But the media is not going to focus on that. They're not going to focus on anything good for the reasons that Alex mentioned. And I have a closing statement for the live stream, but I won't make it now. Fernando, back to you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that the next topic, or the closing topic, will be the significance, the importance of Beijing having been the first city, the first venue to host the Summer and Winter Olympics. This is massive. This is extremely significant. This is the International Olympic Committee realizing that the future of the world, the future of humanity, the future of mankind, the future of the economy, the future of the world is in China. It's a huge rubber stamp of approval to what China is doing, to what China is proposing, and to what China is bringing to the table. So I will throw this question to you. How do you feel about Beijing having been chosen for both the Summer and Winter Olympics? Alex and James, what is the significance of this particular decision by the IOC?
I remember, so when I was again growing up in England, I never heard of like China organizing like really big scale events. But when I first arrived here as well, I mean, I saw a lot of the maybe small events that they were hosting, like international, tournaments and big political meetings, and I was always like really impressed. Again, at the level of organization, the amount of hospitality that was given, and also the positive appraisal as well by all of the guests. I mean, I've seen that year by year and all the time I've been here. So with the Beijing Olympics, I mean, I really do think it has a big significance. Like China is now like a big international stage. We can successfully hold the biggest tournaments in the world. Another point that sticks out for me as well is, and if you look at some of the past editions of the Olympic Games, a lot of the infrastructure they invested in kind of could have went to waste. So if I bring up some names, I don't know if that's a good idea, but maybe Athens,
Greece,
Greece, other ones I don't know about, Atlanta, things like that.
The World Cup,
also Seoul as well when I was living in South Korea.
Yeah.
But basically, they spent this huge amounts of money buying, building up all of the stadia, if you like, and once the games were finished, they were basically mothballed. Never touched again, just padlocked and. Just gone to waste. But I do like how in the Beijing Olympics, they also have a lot of foresight as well. So they're not just investing all of this money into sports infrastructure, just for a show, as good as the show is. So I really do like how they have repurposed, if you like, a lot of the stadia, such as the Water Cube in Beijing. So they've filled up the pool, not with water, but with with hydrogen. What's it called? It's carbon dioxide refrigeration, which produces the ice for the curling events. And the curling event has gone off really spectacularly, and that's one of the events I've really enjoyed watching. So I really love the tactical prowess that goes into it. And also the infrastructure as well, such as all of the clean energy vehicles. That's really impressed me. So so they're not just investing just for a show. I like that about the way they do things in China as well. There's also a lot of foresight that goes into these. So not only then is there a lot of significance that they can hold big tournaments in whichever season, but I really love how they're also showing the whole world how. The future of clean energy is not only it's not just some conceptual thing that might happen in the future. It's something that we can do right now. So I really admire how the organizers have achieved this.
Greenest Olympics ever.
Mario, what is some of your final thoughts on the stream?
Yeah, I do want to make a final statement. By the way, James, China did the same thing with the Shanghai Expo. If you remember, 2008 was the Beijing Olympics, and on the heels of the Beijing Olympics in 2010 was the World Expo, which I went to as a kid, by the way, in America, in New York. They called it the World's Fair back then. So the World Expo, and that was in Shanghai Expo, all along both sides of the river in Shanghai. And they did the same thing. They built it in a way that afterwards they're going to continue utilizing it. Anyway, the points I'd like to make in the closing: the promotion of free speech and the press in today's America is the promotion of the freedom to lie. It means that you can scream "fire" in a theater and get away with it. Okay, that's their version of neoliberal free speech. This is the circumstance as a normal course of life in a daily society in America and other Western countries. As Alex said, integrity is gone. Now, these Western countries operate as far more authoritarian regimes than China does. On top of which is absolutely true. The trucker situation is a really good example of that, of which the government and many other situations of how the police handle rioters and protests in America compared to how these things are handled in China. And these compared to China, let me go back. These because I have my notes here for this, my closing statement. These Western countries operate as far more authoritarian regimes than China does, on top of which the government has mainstream media in step-by-step cooperation with them promoting this crap, okay? The people's situation is worse than ever in America and in other countries like the UK, and it's being ignored. So this gigantic, preposterous anti-China propaganda campaign exists primarily to deflect your attention from the underlying realities, which is that as a Western society, mainly the United States, as it deteriorates, China's rising. And this is the reality. And China's doing amazingly well. China just executed the most amazing control and management of the pandemic of any country in the world. And China just held an amazing Olympics event in Beijing. So China's rising and doing amazingly well. They have to make this effort to get their citizens to not be aware of this dichotomy, of this incredible dichotomy, that the decline of the US, the Roman Empire, the decline of America is happening as we speak, and the rise of China is happening at the same time. And unfortunately, their efforts to make you forget this and get brainwashed about all of these things are effective. And finally, let's not forget what I regard as the most important point. The US is now run by the wealthy for the wealthy. 1 million homeless people are right on, and millions more who are right on the edge of homelessness are being ignored and neglected. And they will continue to be, while the Fed, the government, the bankers, the Wall Street, the corporate executives who are paid, $50 million a year each, while people are starving on the street, these people are running the show. And they will continue to do what they do, which is support the white collar world and support the wealthy in America. And since the beginning of the pandemic, the top 10 billionaires increased their wealth by $1 trillion. Can you imagine this? So this is the state of affairs in the West. This is a decline and deterioration. This is the state of affairs in China. It's an amazing rise. It continues. I continue to have confidence in it. Thank God I live here. China's my home. And that's it.
All right. Very good. Thank you so much for that summary. Now, Alex, what is your closing statement for today's live stream on the topic of the Olympics, media, and the lies?
Well, it's happening in real time. We're seeing it. We're seeing what happens with a country that can, apparently, to the Western media, bring in draconian measures to protect their people. When I arrived here in China in August, I came from a country that was in serious lockdown for almost 18 months. And I actually didn't even know how to behave here. And what I mean by that is I got to a restaurant and I was like, wait a minute, I'm in a restaurant. A year and a half trust me, it's if you're out of that scene and locked into your apartment or locked into your neighborhood and given a pass to go buy groceries or to go out for the day, but all the parks are closed, all the theaters are closed, all the restaurants are closed, all the events are closed, everything's closed for a year and a half, you become insular. And when I arrived to China, I was taken to a shopping mall the first time I got out of quarantine, and I felt totally out of it. I thought, wait a minute, why is this open? Sitting in a restaurant, I know we chuckle at it, but seriously, there are a lot of people in this world right now that are watching these Olympics in amazement. Thank God they have something positive to watch in their life. Thank God they can sit and look at people having fun, because right now, in the last 2 years, these governments around the world have finally been tested. They've finally been tested, and the truth has come out. That's my statement.
Well,
Sure enough,
sorry, James, go.
Okay, so yeah, I would say I can agree with that. And I've been in China from before the pandemic, and really, apart from the first month, maybe going back to about February 2020, maybe spent like a bit more time at home. But really, ever since that, it's been kind of life as normal.
Yeah, go outside these borders, James. It's a different story, my friend. It's not what you think it was before. It's massively changed. People have massively changed. People are hurting all around the world. Every country, your country, my country, United States, you name it, people are hurting. Businesses are getting smashed.
Yes.
Some legacy businesses that were there for 50 years are gone. Guys that have invested in bars across the, even in Thailand, for an example, 2 years that government has not been able to get together to open up its entertainment. 2 years. So you can imagine what people are going through. And that's what I'm trying to say to you guys and the panel. You guys haven't been outside of this country. Look out when you go outside of here. Things have changed.
Well, Glenn Beck did say something in his video that I didn't show you in his entirety. It used to be a time where defectors chose America. I can't imagine what it must feel for Glenn Beck to realize that so many people would rather be in China today than anywhere else. I know I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Look, my closing statement for today's live stream has to do with caution to our viewers and to those of you who do not necessarily agree with what we're saying. Caution. Pay attention to the escalation of language that you are seeing. It used to be alleged genocide, maybe, probably, likely. Now they're telling you to your face, genocide. Now they are not trying to be safe about it. Now they've escalated this communication, this message, to assert something that we know is not true.
Right. You can
if
scream
it were
fire.
true, if it were true, there would be evidence. And let me remind you, I invite anybody on my Twitter, on my comment section, point me to any evidence that is not NED funded or military industrial complex funded, or that comes from witnesses that become hearsay, witnesses that maybe not necessarily be refugees, but asylum seekers who have a story to sell you, who basically have a motivation to tell you horrible stories so that they can get their asylum granted. So point me in the direction of any evidence, and then maybe we can have an honest discussion. So that's my word of caution at the end of today's live stream. In the event of the Olympics, we have seen the rhetoric, we have seen the language escalating, and that to me is something that we need to fight. We need to counter, and we need to let people know that that is not okay. That's the way media manipulates popular opinion in order to make decisions that are going to take us in a path that's really, really dark in today's life, in today's day and age. So, gentlemen, I want to thank you all for, well, joining us in this live stream. Those of you who have been supporting with comments and questions and super chats, those of you who play back this video and watch it afterwards, those of you who share and like this video, thank you so much for being here. We are going to have, together with iChongqing, another live stream talking about the Olympics again later on Friday. So I would like to announce that here today so that you make sure to subscribe to our channels so that you can follow a next take. Today was more of a political video. the next one is going to be a little bit different. So yes, that's all we wanted to share with you today. Thank you so very much for being with us. And well, until we see you again, take it easy and bye for now.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Goodbye. It's been a pleasure.